So, welcome to the introduction of our website for Education 130. I am going to put this on student view, so it'll look a lot like what the course is going to look like from the student point of view as well. And so I'm just going to kind of go over the website very quickly and just share with you how you might want to navigate around it. So we're starting here at the home page with a message from me. It's letting you know that there is no required text for this class, and it also lets you know the best ways to get in touch with me. So basically the most important button that you're going to use this summer is the modules button. The modules button, what it does when you click on it is it takes you to our class broken down into weeks. So we have the introductory module, and then we have module number 1. I'm going to click on this little arrow because then it's going to close up the module so we don't see the details. I'm just gonna, if I just click on that arrow, it kind of minimizes each of those modules so we don't see the details. I'm gonna do that real quickly just so you kind of get a quick overview of how this class is organized. Let's see. Okay. So if we look at the modules, you'll see that it starts with an introductory module, and then it has module number 1, which is due on Friday, July 6th, module number 2, which is due on Friday, July 13th, module number 3, due on July 20th, module number 4, due on July 27th, module number 5, due on Friday, August 3rd, module number 6, due on Friday, August 10th, and module number 7 due on Friday, August 17th. And then there's also extra credit that is due on the 17th. So let me just kind of give you an overall view of that, and so you can kind of get a sense of that. So basically, if you are going, yeah, but what's a module? Well, a module is just a collection of assignments. So the first module is a collection of one discussion board, another discussion board, another discussion board, another discussion board, and that one's got quite a few resources there, another discussion board, and another discussion board. So if you look into each module, you'll be able to see that. Any of the resources that you need to complete that assignment, it will be kind of indented a little bit underneath that assignment. So here for module number 1, you'll see that there's a discussion board, 1A. You can see that it's due on July 10th. You can see that it's worth 5 points. And then do you see how this is indented a little bit? So that means that this video is needed to complete that assignment. Then the next discussion board, right underneath that, you can see that it is due on, oh, I can see actually I made a mistake here with that due date. This due date here should be July 6th. I will fix that. And so this due date will be July 6th. And then this one's July 6th. With this 1B, you can see it's due on July 6th. It's worth 5 points. And then these different video links are videos that you need to complete that assignment. So it kind of just continues on like that. One thing that will be very helpful to you is if when you go to the introductory module that you click on the syllabus, and then when you can look at it within a little viewer that will come up right up on your website, or you can go to where it says download, and then that'll download onto your computer. And then you can see right here on the second page, it breaks it down for you here as well. So it says module number 1, it says there's 6 discussion boards, and each discussion board is worth 5 points. Then module number 2, which is due a week later, has 6 discussion boards, and it also has a written paper. Module number 3 has 6 discussion boards and 1 written paper. Module number 4 has 1 paper and 1 discussion board. Module number 5 has 6 discussion boards and 1 paper. Module number 6 has 6 discussion boards, and module number 7 has 1 paper and 1 discussion board. And then there's extra credit. There's actually more than 30 points that if you that are available, but you could actually only earn up to 30 points of extra credit. So, but I put more than 30 points available in there so that you can kind of pick and choose. When you look through our syllabus, you'll notice that I have a pretty strict late work policy. It says that discussion board participation completed after the due date will not count for the score of that assignment. You can certainly participate after the due date, but just keep in mind that those contributions do not count for points. So make sure that you get your discussion board participation done by midnight of the due date. And then you can also see that the final paper, which is due on August 17th, cannot be turned in late. In fact, I recommend that you get that paper done early. And all other written papers, though, can be submitted late, but for each day they're late, you will lose 10% of your points. And then on page 2, it continues and it says life happens, and sometimes it's impossible to get work done on time, and that is why there is a final module with extra credit options. If you lose points due to an assignment being late, you can make up those points by doing extra credit. So what I'm going to ask is that you do not contact me to get an extension on an assignment or to explain why an assignment is late and to ask for credit. It gets to be kind of complicated with that, and so I ask that you only do that if it's a medical emergency or for a religious observance, and even then, make sure that you are keeping me informed. But of course, I do know that life happens. You know, things happen where a relative's in the hospital, or we get injured, or we get sick, or we have a sick child, or there's all different kinds of things that can happen. But the good news is that there's enough extra credit that pretty much can make up a whole week's worth of work. And so if you have something happen that's kind of beyond your control, then don't stress out. Just know, hey, I can do that extra credit. And you don't even need to, you may not even need to do that much extra credit to even make up for the points that you lost. But do keep that in mind. So I'll let you read through the syllabus on your own, but I think the most important thing is kind of just get a sense of how the assignments are laid out and that sort of thing. So going back to the modules, you're going to introduce yourself by Friday, June 29th, and if you've never used a discussion board before, you just click on this right here, and then it gives you instructions. It says, please introduce yourself. What is your name? Why are you taking this class? Have you taken online classes before? What other classes have you taken from Rock? What experience do you have working with children? And it says, then take the time to read the introductions from your classmates. Take some time to reply to some of your classmates' postings. You are going to spend a lot of time conversing with your classmates over the next several weeks, so use this first discussion board as an icebreaker. And so what I like to do when I have something like this with a list of questions is I like to come to here, I like to highlight that, and then I like to do a right click on my mouse, and I like to click copy. Hold on just a second here. Tyrell? Calling my son because our dog is barking. Okay. And then we're going to put that into paste. And now I've pasted those questions right down here to where the little space where you get to write your answer. And that way I'm not having to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. So then I could just put something like this. I could just write, what is your name? And I could write, my name is Roxanne. And then why are you taking this class? I am taking this class because, and then I could write that out. Have you taken online classes before? So I could just go through, I could type out my answers to these, and then once I have that all done, I would hit post to reply. Now, if I look down here, I can see that there's already some people who have already posted some answers. So here I see that we've got Darian who has posted an answer. And so if I wanted to reply to him, so first I'm going to hit cancel up here to that one. And then I'm going to go to here and let's see. So if I wanted to reply to any of these people here, right underneath their posting, so Emma has this here, I can just, where it says reply, I can click on that, and then I could write a reply that would go to that person. So I could write, hi Emma, and I read this and I could see something to where it says she's finishing up her first year at Wacom. She plans to transfer to Western next year. So I see you are planning on transferring to Western next school year. Will you be let's see, will you be applying to the College of Education to earn your teaching certification? If so, do you know about the West B test that is required for those applying to get a teaching certificate at any Washington State college? I see you are planning on transferring to W. Will you be applying to the college? Okay. And then I can just sign it down here, rock. Maybe I want to add something like, I look forward to working with you this quarter. Okay, and then I would be able to say post reply. Now, hold on just a second here. Tyrell? I'm in the midst of recording right now. Your dog is barking. Thank you. Okay, I am back. So sometimes when you are sometimes when you are wanting to reply to maybe something that has a longer kind of a question. So like, for example, let's go back to modules, and let's click on maybe this one discussion board right here. So when I click on that, when we click on that, then you can see that it's going to give some directions, and it says, watch the 5 assigned videos related to this discussion board. List at least 10 pieces of advice for each early childhood educator based on these videos. Make sure you reference each video at least once. Then identify the main idea that each of these 5 videos emphasizes. If you are not interested in early childhood education, there are many ideas communicated through these videos that could be applied to older age groups as well. And then it goes on to talk about that. So it says down here, and all of the discussion boards that are graded have this reminder here. as listed in the syllabus to get full points for this and all discussion boards. Post an answer that thoroughly addresses all questions listed in the discussion board prompt. Details are important. Don't be too brief. Give at least one thoughtful and detailed reply to a peer's posting. And then participate on at least 2 separate dates for each discussion board. And remember, this needs to be done by midnight of the due date. Any participation after that date is okay, but it won't count for points. Okay, so I have to write 10 pieces of advice. So one thing that I think that is helpful is to go into Word. And so if you open up Word or whatever your word processor is, I could then have my 10 points right here. So I might, right now I'm just going to type a bunch of garbity goop. But let's say that that I've busy writing number 1. I've written down what I think is the advice. I'm giving, it says on there to make sure that I reference each video at least once. So then within that I would say, this came from the second video that was titled, and so I'm making sure that I'm giving advice that was in that video. And again, right now I'm just doing a bunch of garbity goop just so you get the idea. Now, then I could then go on, and then I could go to number 2, and I could just continue on that same idea. And so I'd be able to give that advice. I'd be able to say what video I got that from, and then I could move on to number 3. Now, keep in mind that these are too short. I would be going into more detail, but since it's a bunch of garbity goop, I didn't feel that was necessary. But the reason I like to do this in Word is for a few different reasons. Number 1 is it allows me to do a spell check quite easily. It allows me to maybe do some manipulations with how it's formatted and such, and that can be kind of nice to do. But the other reason that I really like is it allows me to save my work. And so I could save that, and if I was going to save this, I would save it as discussion board 1B. That way, if I'm ever looking for it in the future, I can find it. So I can just save that into a particular file. I can just call it discussion board 1B, and now I have that saved. Now, the nice thing about that is that when I go into here, and then I'm going to hit my own reply, I can go into my Word document. I can simply highlight it. I can then copy it, and then I can come over here and I can just paste it. Now, but let's say that for some reason when I say post reply, some sort of computer glitch happens and it's lost. Well, if I had typed it out in here originally, when it's lost, it's lost. And that is pretty frustrating if you just spent a half an hour or longer on that posting. But the nice thing is if I did that in Word, I'm like, oh, no big deal. I just head back to Word again. I find that file, I highlight it, I go back to here and I paste, and there it is again. So every once in a while, people will share, there can be different kinds of computer glitches, sometimes with an internet connection, sometimes with power. Sometimes they think they've posted something, but then later on they look back and they're like, oh my gosh, it didn't post. I thought it posted. But again, if you're doing your assignments in Word, then it's no big deal. You just find it in your Word documents, and then you can just copy and paste it into there. So I highly recommend that you do that. Now, when you go to your back to the modules again, we're back in modules, and when you go to an assignment on here, one of the things you can look at is you can right here, if you kind of hover on this, I believe, oh, it might not be doing that because I'm an instructor. I was thinking that's where it was at, there should be a place to where you can check out what does the scoring rubric look like. And so, oh, there it is. I don't need to hover, I need to actually click on it. So if you click on those three little dots, you can then go to show rubric, and then you can actually see the scoring rubric, the scoring guide that I'm going to use to grade your paper or to grade your input on the discussion board. So you can see that the answer is going to be worth 3 points. The reply to appear is going to be worth 1 point, and your participation is going to be worth 1 point. So to get all 3 points for your answer, it says an answer is posted that addresses all of the questions posed. The answer is written well with details and clear connections to the resource text reference in the question. So it makes sure that I have to answer all of the questions. So I need to make sure I read through that carefully. I need to make sure that I write it well, that I'm paying attention to my spelling and grammar, and I'm not looking for perfection, but I do want this to be more formal than maybe social media or texting. Details and clear connections to the resource text. So it's not just saying things like, well, I think this or I feel this. It's saying the video said this, the text said this. When I say text, it means like the text, not necessarily your textbook, but the text that I've assigned you to read. And so make sure to get those 3 points that you have, that this describes your posting. For reply to a peer's posting, it says thoughtful and detailed response to a peer's posting. So you want to avoid a reply that says something like this: I agree. Okay, there's no detail there. But you could certainly say something like, I agree. I have found that to be true. When I was a child, and then da-da-da-da-da. Or when I work with kids, or I've seen this to be effective. But you want to go into some detail, not just saying things like, I agree, or that is so true, or, you know, something like that. So you want to make sure it's detailed. You want to make sure it's also thoughtful. Now, thoughtful does not mean that you never disagree. It is absolutely okay to disagree with what somebody posts, but we do it in a thoughtful and respectful way. So you could say something like, when you wrote that the video was recommending that people do this, that caught me by surprise, because I was thinking the video recommended the opposite of that. I went back and rewatched that part, and this is what the video says, and then I might quote that. And then I would say, can you explain what you were thinking? So it's not saying like, oh, you're so wrong, or I can't believe you thought that. But it's absolutely okay to say that maybe your experience has taught you something different, or that the way you interpreted a video or a text is different. But we're going to make sure that you're thoughtful, respectful, and detailed. And then for your participation, to get the full 1 point for that, you want to make sure that you participate on at least 2 different dates. So that might mean that you post on one day and reply to appear on a different day. Or maybe you post and reply on one date, but then you go online another date and you actually participate on that date as well. Make sure that you actually participate on 2 dates. Participating is not simply just reading. It means that you have responded in some way. So you can certainly reply to more than one peer. But what I want to look for is, when I'm looking for your participation, I want to see that you were active in the discussion on at least 2 different dates. Because what happens is when people go online for only one date and they just post their answer, post their reply, and they're done, we just tend not to get good back and forth conversations. And I find that when people are online at least 2 days a week, that they tend to get better, we tend to get better discussions going back and forth. So make sure that you click on the scoring rubric to understand how it's going to be scored. Make sure you read through the prompts very carefully. Make sure you use your word processor to type out your answers, just as a recommendation, not a requirement. But I think those of you that have taken online classes will probably find that to be true as well. Okay, so each one of the modules, or at least most of them, will start with a lecture. And so if you click on that discussion board, it will tell you it'll tell you kind of what you want to be looking for, and then it will also then have underneath of that the lecture that you need to complete that assignment. So here it says, watch this video, lecture number 1, and so then you could watch that lecture, and then you would answer. There would be a discussion board assignment based on that lecture. So you'll find that at the beginning of each modules. It'll be something kind of similar to this, but it'll be a PowerPoint to where I walk you through a different topic each week.